She believed understanding evil could make the world safer. Journalist Laura Greenberg had spent years studying violent crime. She wasn't chasing headlines. She was chasing answers. So she did something that would change her life. She wrote to a man on death row, a convicted serial killer named Douglas Gretzler. She wanted insight. He wanted something else. Douglas Gretzler was already infamous by the time Laura reached out. In the 1970s, alongside an accomplice, he committed multiple murders across the American Southwest. The crimes were calculated, methodical, deliberate. Investigators described him as intelligent and emotionally detached, not impulsive, not chaotic. He was sentenced to death. Years passed, and like many inmates on death row, he began writing letters. Not confessions, not apologies, conversations. Prison gave him something dangerous. Time to think. Time to refine his narrative. Time to connect with people outside those walls. Laura's first letter was professional, structured, focused. She asked about childhood, about trauma, about motive. Why? Did you feel remorse? Were you born this way or made? He replied. His letters were thoughtful, calm, carefully written. He answered selectively, and then he started asking questions back. About her career, her beliefs, her personal life. This is a common psychological tactic known as mirroring, building closeness by reflecting the other person's thoughts and emotions. Creates familiarity. It lowers defenses. Laura believed she was observing him, but slowly the dynamic shifted. Serial offenders often crave control. Even behind bars, that instinct doesn't disappear. Gretzler stopped responding like a subject in an interview. He began positioning himself as someone misunderstood. He complimented her insight, told her she saw him as human, not just as a headline. Laura began defending him in conversations with colleagues. Not his crimes, but his complexity. She started visiting him. Face-to-face conversations in a sterile prison room, separated by glass. Professionally, she maintained boundaries. Psychologically, the lines were harder to see. He spoke about regret, about spiritual growth, about transformation. But experts later pointed out something critical. True remorse doesn't fluctuate. Manipulation does. There were letters where he minimized his actions. Moments where responsibility shifted. Moments where blame subtly drifted toward victims. And yet, Laura remained engaged. Not romantically, but emotionally invested. Then the execution date was set. When you spend years communicating with someone, even someone convicted of horrific crimes, their death doesn't feel abstract. It feels personal. Laura had built a relationship centered on understanding. When the state carried out his sentence, that relationship ended abruptly. No more letters, no more analysis, no more access, only reflection. After his execution, Laura spoke publicly about the experience. She acknowledged something uncomfortable. Proximity changes you. When you spend enough time trying to understand violence, you begin navigating moral gray areas. Not because you excuse it, but because you humanize it. And humanizing someone capable of extreme harm is psychologically complex. This story isn't about sympathy. It's about influence, about how intelligent, controlled offenders can reshape narratives, even from a prison cell. Laura set out to understand a monster. What she discovered instead was something more unsettling. Monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they write back. Can you truly study evil without being affected by it? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you're interested in the psychology behind true crime, not just the headlines, subscribe. Because sometimes the most dangerous connections are the ones built slowly.